Okay, students, I'm starting a version of the 5.4 project, but I'm doing it in two parts, so I want you to understand. In week 5, we had the section where we had to find and validate input, which was in task 2, I think. And then in task 3, they wanted you to use the try-catch. Task 4 is really just an extension of all of that. So task 2 was extended by task 3, was extended by task 4. Now, the basic form that I'm going to use, I designed, looks basically like this. First name input, last name input, age input. There's a validation button, and what you can't see here is that there is a field which will give an error message if you type something wrong in these boxes. So you can see some of the code here. I'm going to send this back with all of your homework. The code, for instance, for first name, I'm using an event key press, which most of you don't know about, but some of you did. You can go, when you're on the form, you can go to a particular field, and then you can go to this little lightning bolt over here, and then you can go to something like key press. And what key press means is if you double click that, then it comes up as code and code insertion point, an event, and then with key press it will check each and every key that you press as you type. So in my case, I did that. I'll also show you a little bit about the buttons, but there's a catch here because I'm also using key press. Okay, so I created a validate class. And in the validate class, I'm using one method. You can utilize this other method, which is in comments here. I know that there were several of you that were using this method, and that's totally fine. I'm just stretching your knowledge a little bit by showing a slightly different method. If you add the line that I've got up here, this one here that says system.text.regular expressions, then you can use this phrase in the if statement that says if not regular expression is match, and then the item to validate, which in my case I'm passing in a string, and then this mesh of characters here says check for A to Z, uppercase and lowercase, well, lowercase and uppercase. Regular expressions are not an easy thing to learn, but they are extremely powerful. Plus, they also exist in almost every programming language, and in some scripting languages, like, say, for instance, in Unix and Linux. So it's something to think about, okay? But a lot of times you'll have to look up something like this if you're not using it all the time, so just be aware. Okay, so what it says here is if this is not a letter, that's essentially what it says. If this is not a letter, throw new exception. Now, what a lot of people didn't realize in task 3 was that whatever method that they were using to check for letters, for instance, was totally fine, but it doesn't work directly with the try-catch. Try-catch utilizes system exceptions, and there's like 10 or 12 of them, I don't remember exactly, but you have to make up your own exception if you are going to do that. So I said, throw new exception. This str error is simply an error message that I'm passing in, and I'll explain that in a minute. And then catch exception, and I used ltrex. It could be one letter, okay? Don't recommend that you use the letter E because there are lots of events which use E for the default letter. Okay, so it comes in here and it says pass back. I'm using a return statement here, okay? So I'm returning a string with the error message. If when you go into here you see that I have set the error message to null, basically. If there is an exception, a place where there is something other than a letter, A to Z, then the message is changed to whatever ltrex.message is. Now, this message is just what I passed from here, strerr, and that comes in when we call the function. Now, let's take a closer look at that. Valid letters only. Okay, that's the name of my validation. Valid letters only. It has two parameters: the string that we're going to validate and the error message. Okay, so I'm passing in the character from the key press converted to a string, and then the error message, which is first name letters only. That's the error message. Okay, so this passes this error message to here. It returns with the error message, comes back here. Okay, this is the valid letters only, and it comes and it stores it in the error message for first name. Now I'm going to show you just real quick what basically is happening here. If I start typing first name and I type in a letter, and then I meant to type in, say for instance, the E, it puts it into this box to the side. It says first name letters only. So then I can go back, I can hit the E that I wanted to hit and go on. It removes the digit that was a problem. And you'll notice it also removed the error message when I did that. Now, this all goes into this error message, and if there was a bad character, that means that the error message will be more than null or greater than 0 in length. As a result of that, I have to do e.handled equals true. This simply means remove the stupid character that I typed that was not a letter. Now, I did this validation with this class in this fashion, and you'll notice it says valid letters only. It doesn't say valid first name only. It doesn't say valid last name only. I can use this for anything where I'm checking for A to Z. Anything. Okay, so that's why when I go down here for last name, it's the same call. The only thing that changes is I'm checking the first name or the last name field. Here, the last name item that's coming in. Okay, so last name letters only. Put the error message in the last name error field. If the last name error field is greater than 0, then I have a message e.handled. Okay, so it's the same exact code, just reused. One of the things that we want to do with object-oriented programming is reuse as much code as we can. Now, to make matters even more interesting, we have age. Now before I go too far into age here, I want you to note this. There's the age input field. And I'm going to go back to the properties. And over on the right hand side down here in the properties, there's a thing which is called maximum length. Okay, you can see it above this blue one. Maximum length. And I have set it from 32,767 or 768 to 3. Now what does that do? When I run this, if I try to put in a number bigger than 3 digits, it beeps at me, and I can't put anything in. It stops me. So that's one problem within that is solved. And by the way, you could have used that for task 2. You could use that for task 3. It'll work anywhere. Okay, so now if we look then at age, let's see, yeah, text age key press. Okay, so this one's basically the same, except we're having to check for digits, 0 through 9. And so instead of checking for valid letters only, I'm checking valid digits only. And so we go here, and this is valid digits only. It's the same idea, except that I have 0 through 9 here instead of, you know, A through Z, A through Z. So otherwise it works exactly the same. Throws the exception, outputs the message, sets the message to return. Okay, so these are basically, you know, you do one and then it's cut and paste, except for, like I said, the field names change, the message changes, and in this particular case the specific function call is to valid digits only as opposed to valid letters only. So this one is different, but it's insignificantly different compared to the other one. Well, you know, to the digits as a whole. You know, it's really, really not different per se. Now I have a button validate on the form, and I can click it. The only thing is, when you use button validate, then anytime you have messed up the input in any one of the fields, it gets all picky and puts the error message up, but there's nothing that you can do to clear it. I could go through and make extra code. I just don't want to make it that complicated. It's already semi-complicated as it is. Okay, so we go through and we have this, and it displays the 3 things that were input. So if you have corrected them, even though it's not showing, you know, the clearing of the error boxes, it will display the corrected item and then displays the thing form submitted, which is kind of neither here nor there, but it's just a message saying, okay, we've finished this. This is all the input and output portion. Okay, when we talk about the form, all of these things are dealt with as part of the input and output. You do that part first, always, because then you have your names, and if you want to type one of these names, it's, you know, really easy to type one of these names like LBL, and you can see all of the labels that I have names for. If I want a text box, you can see all the text boxes I have names for. It's just easier. Okay, so you name all of those to begin with. every single thing that you see on this form is named, and also the thing here which has the error box, which is also named. Okay, so that error box, all of those error boxes, all named. LBL something. In the case of the error boxes, I have them named LBL, ERR, and then whatever it was, like LBL, ERR, first name, LBL, ERR, last name, and so forth. Okay. So then you had task 4. Now task 4 seemed like an enormously harder task to go through, and it really isn't any harder particularly, except for the fact that it's in a file. Okay, now you can start the file code in a separate class. You go up here to this and you say add class, and I'm going to call it ERR file. And within a class, you have to start a method. Generally speaking, you want to try to keep methods as simple as possible. Public, and I'm going to call it simply write error. I need to fix something really quick here. It doesn't need to pass back an error message or anything like that, so we say void. And then there's always a few red squiggles while you're setting it up. Oh, there is something that does need to go in here. String. We'll call it line error. Okay, so the line error is going to be the error message that you pass into the method write error. Now, write error is basically that code almost line for line from the handout. The only difference is when you are putting it in, you have to make sure that you issue the line that says log dot write line whatever, and then when it says write line, you just write line error here. I'll let you tinker with it for a few days, and then I'll post the second version of this program. But it's really simple. I mean, you're talking about just a few lines, and again, most of them are line for line from the handout. But the difference is every place that you are having an error message, set string message, ITR EX message here. Okay, every time you have this message, it should go into the log file. Now, in order to do that, you have to add 2 lines. You have to add a thing for ERR file, a class definition. Maybe E's not the EF. That sounds good. And then you say equals new error file semicolon. You have to add that class variable to do anything. And in the catch section, just below where you've done this setting of the message, you have to say EF dot, and you can see it says write error. And then you put in your message str write message semicolon. Okay, so once you've got your code for handling the file, which goes here, the only difference is that you now set up this connection to the file, write the file line, which specifies the error message, and you're all done. Again, the only differences from each of these is that when you are working on task 2, your error message is probably here. Okay, you shift your error message from task 2 to the catch portion, and you say throw new exception. Is there a reason for doing that? Not really, except to generate an actual exception so that there is processing appropriately for that. You can make your own special exceptions, but that's a much more complicated discussion. This helps you learn how to use try-catch. Some people asked about finally. The program is not big enough to use finally in any meaningful way. So I don't really have an answer for you other than to say the program's not big enough for it. Okay, so this goes back, and then you copy this. Go down to the digit one. Paste. And copy. And you'll notice that so many things are similar in this that I didn't even bother to change the variable names or anything because there was no need to. Okay, so in this part, in validate, the calls for writing the validation already done. Okay, all you have to do is fill in the file code here. Totally done. So let's see if I can bring up what your handout specifically says. Overview. Handout. Okay. It's right there. Streamwriter, if file exists, blah, 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 blah. Again, this is really pretty simple. You have to add a write line there, and you have to close the, it's a really good idea to close the, it's really weird the way they've got that. Oh well, anyway, Streamwriter log. Oops. Oh, I know what I'm forgetting. Using system why is it not showing up? System dot, and then it should probably be IO. file in. Let's try this again. StreamWriter. Log. Okay, so if not file exists. Isn't that one word? Oh, file dot exists. Let's see. Log file dot text. And it's going to tell me to make it. Log equals new StreamWriter. Log equals new StreamWriter. Log file dot txt. Else. Come on. There we go. And where are we? Log equals file.append text. Append text. Log file dot text. Okay, so once we have that much, we still need to actually write to the file, because at that point we've established that the file is open. Either we've opened a new file or we've opened a file for appending and then done that. Okay, so then we say log dot writeLine, and then we use line error from way up here at the top where we established this. Okay, now there is one thing, and this is, we wrote this and it should break off, but just for safety's sake, close the file. Not closing the file is a bad idea. Okay, so that should be everything that we need to discuss there. Okay, so that's what we have to do. And this should then make it so that if we have an error, that error will be written to the file. Okay, now then, I can click validate, but again, it's just going to be a little bit wonky because of the key press version. But let's take a look at the file, because we do have a file now. Okay, there's log file now. This is a brand new, just created version of log file. And you see it says first name, letters only, age, digits only. Okay, those were my error messages, and they were passed into the appropriate class to operate. And so that's everything that you need to know. Validate is just a modularized version of that. You can see that if you take out the example in the middle there, that this is just a couple of methods. If you take out, well, there's nothing to take out of this. And then the error is, the error file is just a single method. We need to start thinking more modularly so we can reuse stuff. And you know, this, even though this is all of this, keep in mind that really, if you look at this really closely, the only thing that's really changing here is field names. Okay, so we ideally want to make things as reusable as possible. When I did this one first, and then I cut and pasted it down to the new thing. When I opened up a new key press, I copied all of this right here into the new key press code, which was here between these two braces. I copied it all into there. I did add this comment, but from here to here is basically the same. And then I went and changed the first name to last name. You know, letters only was the same to last name. And was there anything else? No. And then when I did the age one, I did the same thing. And you can tell because the comment's not there that I used the same copy and paste that I did for the other one. And then I changed age. I had to change this to digits only. And is there anything else? Oh yeah, age here. I mean, that's literally how simple it was. I have to be careful when you do a cut and paste, because there was an error message that I had wrong. It was in this one here. I did the cut and paste on this one, and then when I was testing it, all the message kept saying letters only. I had forgotten to change this from first name to last name. If anybody's wondering, this VLO, which is highlighted here, is simply the variable for validate class. VLO, but you know, validate letters only. It's kind of a misnomer in a way, but that's what I was going with at the time, and then I just cut and pasted it so it was also down here in age. I could change it. You know, I could make it validate numbers only, but I don't see the point. Or validate digits only. I just don't see the point. Oh, what the heck. Validate digits only. The only place it's referenced is right here. So, no big deal. Oh, is there anything else? I don't know. But like I said, I'm going to zip this up and make it available to everybody. And this video to go along with it. Okay? So that's it. Close solution. Okay.